How's it going, everyone? This is Adam from Slurv. Ship my money on DraftKings, and I'll be breaking down today's pitching slate for you. I'm going to go through a few pitchers that I like in cash games and tournaments, and then finish up with a couple hitting stacks, what pitchers I want to target. The first pitcher I like today is Corey Kluber at 12,500 on DraftKings facing the Phillies. He struggled to start the season out, but in his last start, he finally had a really good start. His velocity was the highest on all of his pitches that it's been this season, so I think it could just be a case of him finally getting into a rhythm and getting back to what he, was last season. Dating back to last season, he has a 27.5% strikeout rate with a 3.06 xFIP and 27.5% hard contact rate. He's facing a Phillies team who, in 612 at bats against right-handed pitching this season, they have a 297 WOBA, 79 WRC plus, and 22.1% strikeout rate. So the upside's there for Kluber to get a lot of strikeouts. He's pitching in Citizens Bank Park, which isn't ideal, but he's facing a team that just really doesn't hit well. And I think he's the number one option on today's slate, with most of the stud pitchers not having really good matchups. I want to target him against the Phillies, even though it's not a great ballpark. And he is a minus 184 favorite. The Phillies are only projected to score 3.2 runs. So I think he's a safe enough play for cash games, and I think he's got the most strikeout upside on the slate for tournaments. My number two option for tournaments, or not number two, but my mid-tier option for tournaments is Aaron Sanchez at 7,100 facing the Tampa Bay Rays. His strikeout percentage is up this season from last year. He's up over 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings now. He's facing a Rays team who, in 541 at-bats so far this season, has a 289 WOBA, 89 WRC plus. They've struck out over 28% of the time. 28% probably will drop over the course of the season, but that's just so high. Like, the strikeout upside's clearly there. And he gets a ballpark boost also going from the Rogers Center in Toronto down to Tampa, where it's not as ideal of a place to hit. He's a small underdog, so I don't like him in cash games as much, but Tampa's still projected to score less than 4 runs, and I think he'll be pretty low owned today with all the big names out there. Plus, he's coming off a really bad start last time against Oakland, so I think he's still priced too low for his upside, especially facing a team who struck out so much this season. And then my cheap pitcher today, who I like in cash just because he's so cheap and he's got a really good matchup, is Juan Nicasio against the Reds at home. He's in a really good ballpark that limits power. Dating back to last season, his strikeout rate is almost 25%. I expect that to fall a little bit just because his swinging strike percentage is below 10, and so I would expect it to drop a little bit, but he's still clearly capable of getting strikeouts. His xFIP dating back to last year is 3.97, so he's been pitching pretty well. It's not someone that we expect to regress to where he starts getting hit hard. His main problem is that he walks people. His walk rate's up over 12%, but he's facing a Reds team who, so far in about 600 plate appearances this year, has only walked 6% of the time. So I'm not too worried about him walking a lot of people because he's facing a team that isn't particularly patient, and they also don't hit particularly well with a 281 WOBA, 67 WRC plus, and 22% strikeout rate so far this year. At 5,800 on DraftKings, he's someone that I feel comfortable with as my second starting pitcher in cash games because it'll let me afford some bats, and I really like his strikeout upside in tournaments. He's priced a little bit higher on FanDuel, so I don't necessarily like him as much there. But one pitcher that I do like for tournaments on FanDuel that I don't like as much on DraftKings is Sean Manaea, again making his major league debut against Houston. At every level of the minor leagues, his K per 9 has been above 10, so he's definitely got strikeout stuff and strikeout upside. But he's facing an Astros team who hits lefties well, dating back to last year. They only strike out about 19% of the time, 111 WRC plus. So it's not the best matchup, but at 6,100 on FanDuel in tournaments, I really don't have a problem running him out there and then just loading up on bats. Hope that he just has a good debut, strikes out a bunch of guys, maybe gets the win, and then you have all the hitters that you want also. So the hitters I want to target, I think the game in Arizona is going to be really high scoring, and I definitely want to target guys from both sides. Especially righties against Robbie Ray. and especially on DraftKings where Arenado and Story are both priced at 4,200, Rayburn's priced at 3,000. Those are all way too low. They're not in Coors Field anymore, so their price dropped, but they're in Chase Field, which is basically like Coors Light. So I like all three of them against Robbie Ray, who is really bad against righties. 329 WOBA, 4.51 xFIP against righties, 36.8% hard contact rate dating back to last year. That's a lot of hard contact against righties that can absolutely destroy left-handed pitching in a great place to hit. And so I really like the Rockies righties against Ray, and I don't think you can really go wrong taking hitters from either team in that game. One team that I'm hoping goes under the radar a little bit is the Tigers against Phil Hughes. Hughes has reverse splits dating back to last year. He's been really bad against righties. His WOBA's 353 against righties, 4.22 xFIP, almost 32% hard contact rate, 43% fly ball percentage. That's a lot of hard hit fly balls against a Tigers team who has a lot of really good right-handed hitters. Miguel Cabrera especially has absolutely owned Phil Hughes throughout the course of his career. He's something like 17 for 35 with 5 home runs. But that's a game where their Vegas total is one of the highest ones on the board, and I really like the numbers back that up when you look at Hughes' numbers against righties. So that's a game that I really, really want to target the Tigers hitters, and I'm hoping that on a 14-game slate it gets overlooked because Phil Hughes hasn't been that bad this year, and the game in Arizona just stands out as like a really high-scoring game. So I'm hoping that the Tigers are kind of just like a sneaky play, even though they're in such a great spot. I don't know if that'll end up being the case, but I definitely don't think they'll be like really high owned because there's 14 games, so nobody's going to be really high owned. So that's where I plan on going for hitters. So just to recap, I like Kluber and Nicasio for cash. On DraftKings, well, on both sites, I like Aaron Sanchez for GPPs, and on FanDuel, I like Sean Manaea making his Major League debut. And then I really want to target hitters in the Chase Field game, so Diamondbacks and Rockies hitters, as well as Tigers righties against Phil Hughes. So make sure you stop into the Slurve chat later, get our ideas on things once lineups are released and we have a better idea if there's any weather concerns and stuff like that. And good luck tonight, guys.